Thanks.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Nottingham Budget Committee meeting of October 18th. October 18th, what am I saying? November 15th. Thank you. I'm reading my paperwork in front of me here. November 15th, 2018. And quick, just introductions.
Lee Lederer. Carol Martin. Rosalind Chapter.
Mishka Haddock, Chair.
Michael Keister, Vice.
Tim Gabriel.
All right. And with us,
Chris Souza, Principal of Nottingham School.
Nate Byrne, Director of Student Services, SAU 44.
Susan Levinson, Nottingham School Board.
all right, thank you very much. And John is with us too.
Yeah.
So.
Ben here.
Hey. Sorry, Ben's here. How are you? All right, so we have the first draft of the 2019-2020 school budget, as well as a year-end of 17-18 school financials and general school updates. So where do you want to start? You want to do the 17-18 updates and where you think you're going to end up and that kind of thing, and then we can look at the proposed budget for next year.
So we'll run through those updates quickly. I'll just make some brief statements on it, and then brief overview of the budget, and then our experts will begin with their sections and move forward. So for our revenue review, our adequacy numbers were just received this morning. So those will be, they'll be working through those and fitting those into the revenue. You have a sheet on that, and it currently shows that for your binders for the budget, you'll have firm numbers on revenue at a later date because of the adequacy. For the revenue for the 17-18 school year, you have a page on that. And everything I believe at this time from what the board has been discussing is that we are receiving what was expected at this time. We have a few items that are open, but it's in overall pretty good shape for the revenue piece. In terms of a monthly financial review, we do not have audited financials at this time. Last year, we received our completely audited financials toward the end of December. This year, we have a new auditing firm, and things have been going very well. Our auditing committee will be meeting with them on November 30th. So the monthly financial review that you have before you shows that we're anticipating an anticipated unassigned fund balance of around $572,000. There will be additional adjusting entries based on the audit, but we feel that this is probably about 85%, accurate at this time. So we would anticipate bringing you final financial numbers for the 17-18 period at the close of the audit. Do you have any questions or concerns around that?
All right, so real quick, where am I looking at those numbers? Because I'm looking at this.
Item in the binder, I believe, says
it's
financial review, and the notation at the bottom is November 7, 2018.
Yeah.
The one that everyone has. So looking at that, it's if you pull.
But this is the 2018-19 school year. The one that's in the binder. The one that's separate is the 17-18.
Okay.
Right? Isn't that the one we were just looking at 17-18 end of year financials?
That's
It's right here.
right. It was.
It's right in the.
It's report number 19060.
Yeah.
It was in the beginning.
Right on the left-hand side.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so that's the, all right.
So I apologize.
No, that's fine.
It's- So the anticipated balance is $282,990.
Okay.
We've got multiple iterations here because adjusting entries have been occurring.
Right.
And accruals and so forth.
And so, and all the encumbrances have been accounted for? That's why that whole column is zeros?
Yes, my understanding from our business administrators that your encumbrances have been taken care of.
Okay.
The adjusting entries have been made. The adjusting entries that we do not yet have would come from the auditors if they choose to make some changes. Right. So these are very close. This also takes into consideration any year-end expenditures that were made by the board out of the unassigned fund balance.
Okay.
In front of that packet too, there was also a letter explaining
Yeah.
why there was an error.
Right.
And the apologies from the superintendent.
Yeah.
Okay. So
I saw that. Yeah, fun stuff. That was a very confusing evening for us.
Yes.
When we saw those numbers. Can you, real quick, just give me like any areas where we were way off, or where, you know, the budgets were way off that we need to look at, consider, and address? And
I can.
I mean, I'm seeing some that are, obviously, we ended up in the positive with some unexpended funds, but then others, 31,000 over expenditure.
Do you want to just kind of roll from the beginning through it? So, I think transportation was an area. that we
Transportation
discussed.
was, yes. So, one of the issues with the transportation was that we were short a bus the entire year. So, what wound up happening was they gave us a credit of 75%. They still charged 25% of the cost because they were transporting the students, and the routes were longer, but because they were short the bus, they did give us a partial credit back for that. So that was a large number of unanticipated back. Okay, that's one of the major areas. If you had any other like specifics, I can look at the numbers for you, but that was one of the larger of them all in that area. Let's see. Of course, the tuition, the Co-Brown tuition was another large area where we projected a certain number of students required, and that's all the way on to page 11 of that. That was all large.
We had a
I see we
higher-
also had, on page 2, line, what is it, 44, special education
Yep.
salaries.
Is,
Was
are
an
you-
over expenditure by 13,000 of what was originally planned?
That was what I would believe to be a replacement of staff, a staff change,
Okay.
and/or steps. Oh, okay, yeah. But yeah, okay, yeah. So,
It's offset by the other two, couple lines ahead above it.
and Chris pointed out that that was substitute, which you can't always project how many substitutes you're gonna need.
Okay. Then what about line 54, the special ed
So
tuition?
that was a change in placement, no
For a
longer.
student?
Yes, that's
Okay.
correct. No longer needed placement, and it was projected that they would.
Right, yeah, I remember something, hearing about that.
And if you look at 5, that's line 102, page 5, a larger number of,
Yeah.
was the student was no longer with us as well. So that's a large return that was unanticipated.
And the course tuition reimbursement there on 117? Page 5?
fully
So that-
utilized.
Yeah.
By contract,
I'm sorry?
we're contracted by the contract to reimburse or pay for faculty to take courses, so that's we just had more people or staff members taking courses than anticipated.
So we make an estimate, we budget based on what they're contractually allowed, and then there are times when there's a little variance with that.
Try to use a running average, say 5 years, plus depending on who's in. You make a good judgment on what's the education they have currently, how many people maybe want to move towards something like a master's degree or whatnot. So it can be a moving target at times.
Okay. Yeah, I remember, I think a few years ago, it was unexpended, so at least they're using it now, which is good.
last year we implemented some new programs for training.
I think one of the biggest sections is just sitting from what was budgeted.
So going to page 7, the computer-assisted instruction, wasn't that, I thought that was all like planned and built into the actual budget. How did we end up over? Oh, I'm sorry.
154
149 through 156.
Oh, that whole section.
Yeah.
It looks like security.
I get the well, but the security cameras I thought was
That's paid for.
planned expense.
No, actually it came on later because that was a grant that I wrote after the year started that was made available to schools. And it was a 80/20 grant, so they and we had to pay it up front first, and then we used it after.
Okay.
It has to show up as an expense.
$10,000.
The new equipment, is laptops? The 23,000?
iPad parts as well as
It's gonna be an- Given that we have.
You're looking at some of the mainstay, but we look at some of these. More manipulative.
Mr. Haddock, I also wanted to go back and apologize because I was considering this year's placements as opposed to last year's placements. Both of those were unanticipated add-ons, but this year they've been removed
Okay.
because they weren't needed. So I was going back and
Okay,
forth between
gotcha.
looking at this year's budget and these expenses. So I wanted to make sure that was clear, that they were unanticipated add-ons, but at this year, you're going to see
They're
them.
gonna be removed.
Yeah,
Okay.
so I just wanted to make sure that was clear.
Yeah.
I was going back and forth. Sorry about that
Oh, no problem.
mistake. I wanted to clarify my answer.
What was the repairs to the maintenance building, line 216 on page 10?
Could that be the sinkhole part or what?
No,
Ground?
that'd be
The
this.
sinkhole was $3,000. We did a small amount for the sink in the 6th grade classroom. And I believe, again, out of that unanticipated fund balance, we had some building work that we asked to have
The
done.
duck.
The duct cleaning, and also we did the,
Yes, so the
This
ducts,
was all
we,
part of the
there, in
doors as well.
last year's budget, there was a request that was ultimately not followed through on due to cost constraints, to have all the duct work blown out, vacuumed,
Oh, right,
cleaned
yeah.
out. And apparently that has not been done since the school, as far as we could tell,
Whoa.
we couldn't see where it had ever been done. So when we had an unassigned fund balance, we determined that that would be an area that,
Gotcha.
We also had original equipment up there, right?
correct, when they replaced the fire alarm, we noticed there was a lot of the dust that was causing us to have faulty alarms previously. So cleaning of the ductwork was a natural. The the alarm company recommended that, the fire department recommended it. Also improves the air quality in the building, and the safety, so it was.
Okay.
so we have been making some expenditures of that type out of our capital reserve accounts. As you know, we've been going up onto the top of the building and looking at the HVAC system, which was 10 years older than the school. It was when it was installed, so we've been incrementally attempting to improve air quality and improve those systems.
Those are all the questions I have for now. Anybody else? All right, do we want to move on to the 2019 proposed budget?
So in your binders, you have 2020 Nottingham version 1, so this is our first pass at our budget. We are, at this point, coming in with around a 3% increase. We are still discussing the facility. We are talking about programming. And I think that we do slight adjustments to this as we progress and talk through additional items. We are, at this point, we feel we've used every available space in our school. We made a commitment to the community probably about 5 or 6 years ago now, when we had made the request for an addition, and it was resoundingly, not adopted. We made a commitment at that time to really just focus on academics and to do the best we could with the space that we have. And toward that end, we have spent out of our capital reserve funds, we have taken down walls, we have added a kindergarten room, we've converted closets, added windows to closets, tried to make space in our, for storage, and off of our gymnasium. So we've really made a concerted effort to look around, to do what we can with the space we have, with the resources that we currently have, and really push on our academics. And we feel very, very proud to say that our students are still improving. On the nationally normed NEWA testing, they are well above the standards. They are doing very well on the state testing. We have a couple of pockets that are going to be addressed, but our RTI program is working well. So those are the commitments that we've made and that we're continuing to push and follow through on to do the best academic job we can for every student in that school. This year is our first year with full-day kindergarten, with only a nominal increase to the budget. We had slightly offsetting cost, if you will, where we didn't have to have a midday bus run. So we have a full-day program, the first in the history of this town, and we think that it will be extremely beneficial to our students. The board recently took another look at it and ensured that there would be a paraprofessional full-time in every single classroom there. We expanded to 3 classrooms due to higher enrollment than anticipated. So those are some of the things that we're working on. So our budget reflects that, but we are now beginning to look again. Not that we haven't been looking at it. We've been doing small incremental things to the building. But we are looking again. We have a facilities space advisory committee that just met this evening. We've toured the school again. We're looking at things that relate to programming. We find that our programming is now being impacted by our lack of space. We would like to do a world language program, but we would have to have another teacher on a cart. We may have to expand the school day to accommodate that. We would like to do more with STEM and with hands-on work, and we are grateful for the $30,000 that we received to upgrade our library and to start to do some of those things. So we really want to look at our programming. We've had a facility review done on the building, and we're having another enrollment projection, which we anticipate having within the next few weeks from NESDEC. So those are the kinds of things now that we're starting to look at again. Most of the drivers you see here this evening are going to be contractual. Our contracts with teachers, paraprofessionals, our insurance, and most of those sunk costs. So that's primarily what you're seeing here today. And as we progress through this process, I think the board will be, and the administration, talking about a few more things to enhance the academics for our students.
Sure.
One other quick thing on the Space Advisory Committee, we would like to have a budget committee member there. The last time that we had that committee member attending, and I think that would be helpful for us. As far as this budget goes, we do have Co-Brown's tuition amount. It came in yesterday or this morning.
This morning.
So we'll go through that as we progress. We have their special education number as well as their tuition number, which increased 2.84%. We do not yet have final numbers for our preschool, which is out of our SAU, nor do we have a final number for our SAU at this time. We will be meeting later this month, and then on December 10th, we'll have our hearing at that point on our SAU budget. So we will give you firm numbers at that time. We should, though, anticipate that Nottingham's share will be around 38 to 40% because our enrollment is still higher, significantly higher than the other two schools, and we do have a higher valuation, which, if you look at the tax rate, came in at about $618 million. So those are the two factors that drive what we have to contribute to the SAU. So with that, we'll just progress as you wish. If you want, section by section, and
Yeah.
these gentlemen will go
I think
through
that
it.
usually works the best, just so we can stay on top of things.
Okay.
So we can start with regular education. And I think I'll just, if we go page by page, if you see something that jumps out at you or you have a specific question on, please let us know. We can certainly highlight a couple of the things we're looking at. The permanent substitute, the savings on that was we had a change in staff. That is change there.
The regular ed para, the increase in there, one of the major factors was we had a para in the library that was coded under special ed that was not a special ed para, so they were moved to the regular ed salaries as they should have been originally. So you'll see there's an increase there, and that's why.
And I think we added, for the budget, for budgeting purposes, we've added one academic, and we do have 3 paraprofessionals in the
For the
kindergarten.
Yep.
So I think last year we didn't have that.
Oh, that's right.
So that drives that 24.93%. In terms of insurance, we don't yet have our final numbers, so,
And that's a tab that will show later, but the guaranteed maximum is 8.7. That number won't be solidified until March.
All right, page 2.
Workman's comp, if you look at that, it looks like a large increase just because of the numbers and how that's something we don't have control over, and you have to take the multiple years average to determine what it is, and that's a sunk cost that we have no control over, so that's based on what we have to put in.
Further down at the bottom, you see some of our supplies are up. Math supplies, math manipulatives, looking at some of the projects we're doing that are going to dovetail with the new science curriculum we're looking at, as well as the middle level math program. So we just needed a few more supplies for that. Music, which begins at the bottom and goes to the next page. This increase is due to new instruments. We have a new music teacher this year. When we went through the inventory and looked at the instruments, and I have to help her with that. there was a lot of the instruments were in disrepair. We contacted Music and the Arts to ask about what the repair would be for some of these pieces. And while they would repair them for us, they suggested that it might be more cost effective to offer options to parents to lease or rent certain instruments. So we did that, and that was really well received by the parents. But there's still some holes in our band that we'd like to have some more instruments for, including our everyday music classes as well, to have some exposure to. So we're looking for a bass metallophone, which I have to say I'm not quite up to speed on.
I was gonna say,
Some type of,
Yeah, I've never heard of one.
it's a big saxophone.
It's a big saxophone? Okay.
Well, if you've never heard of it, I'll tell you exactly what it is. Yeah.
I've heard of saxophones.
Then, of course, you gotta get the alto one to go with it. And the electric piano, because we have one piano, I think it's used for all the activities in the school, so we wanted an electric one that actually, a little bit more modern, and that we could be a little more portable too. We've been able to take kids out caroling and doing some other things over the course of the year, and the music program has helped us with that, so we're thinking these things will help us out. Continue down with supplies. Most of them have come in less. There's a few, like I said, a few bumps. Science, we've adopted the new NGSS, the
Next
next generation science standards. They're excellent, but they're very hands-on, very much focused on having students come up with questions and doing some what they call phenomena experiments. And so we're just looking for supplies for that as we move forward.
One question on the music supplies, just so the increase that we see here, will that be basically just because of this year, and next year we'll go back down? So
Yes.
just because of this incurred cost of the
Exactly.
amount of instruments you have to buy
Yes.
for the programs?
Yeah, and if you look back at the past expenditures,
Right.
they're pretty average around, you have to pay royalties for the music that you purchase to sing, to play. So that's been the cost. So this bump is really just, and we were able to actually look at some other pieces of music to kind of offset the increase. But yeah, this would be one-time purchases. You can't have two bass mellow.
Overpowering.
On page 3. Jump if you see anything. We have some increase in new equipment. Down at the bottom, that 40% increase, it's not a huge increase, but we had talked about an office shredder last year. We were rather surprised at how expensive an office shredder can be. This is at the low end of the, the ones that are not industrial, but that get used a lot, office shredder. So we put that in there. The one we have works, but it's certainly on its way out. We have to kind of hold the door shut to make sure it shreds and things like that. So we'd like to get a new one, particularly with all the confidential information that we want to shred at the end of the day.
So looking at total regular education costs, you're up at 2.23%. That's really, the majority of that is uncontrolled costs due to contract and or health insurance.
Question going back on to the workman's comp.
Yeah.
Was that driven by any particular accident history or just
No, it's,
same program that's always been there and it just cost more this year?
that's correct. Okay. That was done by the business office and they followed the protocol that's required by the state, and that's just, it's costing more. Page 4, we're starting to look at special education costs at this point. So you'll see some increases, but really what's happening is they're trying to, so one of the things that might jump out at you is the ESY, but if you look right below, it's in there again, so it's not really 100% decrease. I want to make sure you're seeing that it's in there. It's a recoding to align with the state to be accurate with reporting, because during auditing, we're finding out that not all of our numbers that we've used in history have matched the state's requirement for the reporting, which causes an issue and delays the audit. So we're trying to align our numbers to what the state's looking for line numbers. So while you see the decrease of 22,100, you actually see it below, and you can see that there is a line change.
So it's the chart of accounts.
That's correct.
They're trying to align the chart of accounts to what the state mandates. The case manager one on the very top. Teacher salary. up
That's
a
it,
little.
yep, change in staffing. So your salaries is based off a change in staffing. And I would say that is also why you see the health insurance increase is a change in staffing. So if you're going down further to the line 1,252.11.61, you'll see a 17.7% increase. That is not just the GMR, that is also the fact that you have a change in staffing.
One thing that I do note, looking at this on page 5, for special education, the preschool line doesn't have anything in here yet for the proposed budget, it looks like. So our adopted budget we're currently working with is at 173,000. So that,
I believe it's down below as a recode.
just a recode? Okay.
Yep, it's down below as a recode. One other thing I want to mention, that wasn't mentioned earlier in the teachers, but it shows up again here, so it made me think about it. I do want to let you know that the retirement was increased for your certified staff by quite a bit. So it was increased to 17.8%, which is an increase of roughly about 6% or so. So that's another reason you're seeing an increase over your teachers and your special ed costs, is because that's set by the state, which we have no control over on that
I
one.
think they do evaluation to see if they're fully funded, because it's a defined benefit. So
That's
if
correct.
they see that they're coming up with any shortages potentially, they adjust accordingly, and we have to comply.
Right, so I just wanted to highlight that, because that, that 7.8% is a relative jump, but over the overall staff, that's again another reason it's going up.
So does that mean we're anticipating a few teachers retiring?
No, that's just the state sets it, and whatever the salary is for any of the teachers, you have to contribute 17.8% while they contribute their 7%.
It's just a retirement program, a pension fund for all teachers. Municipal employees have it as well. There's different percentages. So they pay into it, we pay into it, and then they get a defined benefit upon their retirement.
So if you move to page 5, you can see where we have our special education tuition preschool, and there's a recode again per state that it shows down below special education tuition preschool, and it is showing a decrease, estimated decrease. We'll see kind of where that winds up, but that's the estimated now. So looking at that, it's hard to look at the fact that it's been a decrease, but it has, because you were looking at 173 last year, and now you're looking at 165. I don't know if that's gonna hold because it hasn't been voted, but that's where we're at currently.
And that's based on some of the, we don't have, yet we have not discussed all of the salary adjustments at the joint board level.
Correct.
So it likely will change somewhat.
Yep. Again, special education, tuition non-public, you can see 100% decrease there. That's not 100%, that's not totally accurate. There's some recoding going on, I believe, there. So I would have to find where that got moved to again. Right above, yeah. Yeah, right above. So you can see the decrease there, and that is what I talked about with needs. So if you look at Above, it looks like a new line. There's no history, there's no zero, there's no adding. But what it's showing are the schools that we're paying to, and that is a decrease from what it was this year. We actually have a student who returned already, so you'll be seeing that down the line as well.
So line 1200, 55, 69, 61 is showing 0 and has been recoded to line 1200, 55, 64, 61.
Correct.
And that's at 170, 585, which is a reduction from the 257 that was paid last year.
Yeah.
And it's all based on student need and IEPs and so forth for out-of-district placements.
Correct. Thank you.
Some of the recoding for the chart of accounts does create a little confusion because you're, wondering where it ended up.
Yeah.
So,
So as of right now, if you're looking at our total special education costs, it's actually going down, which doesn't happen very often. So we're kind of lucky with that at this point. And that was due to...
Keywords at this point.
Yeah, at this point, and that's why I'm saying, because you never know, it's what you can't anticipate, but at this point, due to the fact that we had a student come back to the school, it's a large savings.
Right.
And I would accredit the good work that they're doing at the school in order to bring that student back, as well as the hard work of the student.
So on page 6 now, we're still looking down.
Yeah, one of the things that I want to highlight on Medicaid is they've brought down the cost for us. We used to pay 9%. They've given us a discount to 8% of whatever we do. So that's a 1% decrease. So that's why you're seeing, it looks like 10%, but so it is going down. It's not that you're going to lose revenues from the Medicaid. It's the fact that they're only charging us 8% to do the processing fees at this point, as opposed to 9%.
So at co-curricular, which is just under Medicaid midway on page 6, there's an increase of $7,000. What that's coming from is twofold. We have added some new clubs to the school. One in particular, computer gaming club, that is standing room only for the kids. Kevin Smith, our tech director, has been running it for 3 years now, unpaid. And so we'd like to add him in as a stipend position of $1,000, which is what our clubs normally do. Because it definitely is going to be something to continue. Also, our Wider Horizons program, which runs quite a bit of our after-school clubs and programming, has been a volunteer position for many years, including our ski program, which it takes a lot of hours. So we're putting that in, similar to an athletic director stipend of $3,000 to run the programs for the after-school that incorporates a lot of our sports programs and after-school clubs, and again, like the ski program as well. Archery, things like that we've had in the past. In addition, there's money for overnight trips per contract. When teachers spend an overnight on a field trip, they get paid $100 per night. Next year, we'll be heading to either Washington, D.C., New York City. We're still debating all these the destinations based on cost. And so that's going to offset some of the costs that we'll pay the teachers to go on a chaperone. That happens every other year, the big trips. So the total is up. You can see corresponding pretty much to those co-curricular stipends on the top of the next page, page 7.
4,000 of that is right there with those two, so that's the majority of it.
Again, every other year, you'll see about 3,600 to offset that overnight trip that the teachers go on.
Does that take into participation from both 7th, 8th
Yes,
At the
yes,
same
we do
time.
7-8 goes, so it's every other year.
Okay,
And, yes.
so every student will get there.
Yes, yes, in the past, we've done it 3 times now, so this will be the 4th trip for next year. And it's good trips, it's fun, our kids always do very well, and we get a lot of compliments. Yeah, it's nice.
We haven't lost any yet.
Well, it was that, no, you're. After that, we begin elementary athletics. So that, you have a list of all the stipends for the, per collective bargaining, all the programs and sports that we have. The biggest increase is here. The first one you'll see is official umpires and referees, and it is a big increase. We have limited control over that. The cost of umpires and referees went up dramatically. There's a large shortage in the state. Also, we've added another team and more games. So, obviously that means more referees and more officials. And, it's a nice job if anybody has time. They pay well. And then just supplies, modest increase around that. Repairs and maintenance, we're looking at, that's the $3,000. We've done some work to the front field, the softball field, to make it a little more playable, more safe. In the past, there'd been exposed ledge in the outfield, so we couldn't use that field. It was used for Little League, things that wouldn't go as deep. But working with NYA this past year, and Scott Brown, our facilities manager, who's awesome, we were able to cover up and kind of lay out where the ledges were, and NYA put up a fence so that within the infield and the outfield that's playable, there's no ledge showing any longer. So we believe it can be a sound middle level field. So while we are happy to come and share in the town center, we know that NYA has games. We've often had the timing conflict when the games go up against each other. Having a home field right at the school is a big advantage for us. So we wanted to put money in now to improve the infield and just some of the structures there. NYA is partnering with us on it, so they're really helping us, even financially as well as manpower, to do it. So it's pretty exciting. It's just another example of how the town and the school really working together to share our facilities and the cost and the expense and the repairs.
So you're not using that section of the field for parking anymore?
What, not that section, the outer section.
Other sections, yeah.
Yeah.
While you're on fields, you had some support from the backfield too, from,
Yeah, Northern Strikers,
Yeah.
and we've always had great support from Gary Cowan, the Cowans, as far as helping take care of the fields. They're really, really good to us as far as fertilizing and even just the advice of what we can do to maintain it. But our backfield lacked irrigation, lacked watering, so it tended to dry out and get beat up pretty well, pretty easily. So Northern Strikers came to us and asked us what would we think about putting in irrigation. And they had a donor who was going to donate and raise some money. We went to our PTA, and our PTA donated about half that cost. Again, Gary Cowan helped facilitate, and through his generosity, really offsetting how we were going to pay for it so we could make it happen. So that that field was now fully irrigated, which this past year, it'll take 3 years to really firm up, but even this last year, you could see the difference and how well the field held. Didn't get muddy near the end of the season as much as some of the other fields did. It's a nice field to water because it drains well overall. So, yeah, and that was, all donated money and funds raised.
yeah, and that kind of dovetails into the Marston project, because when we were meeting on that, the school had said that they would maintain that backfield for community use as well as school use, so they helped us meet that commitment while Marston is coming up, so.
Great. Good. Excellent.
Yeah, so total athletics, again, you see the bump. A lot of that is the referees and the front field. So then on to guidance, no more questions. We see, I believe there's a track change in one of our guidance counselors by contract. So that's where that increase in salary comes from. We have 2 full-time guidance counselors.
I do want to just point out one new line that was in there as well. So if you look down towards the bottom, guidance software, You had been paying that line out of special ed. It's not really truly a special ed program. It's for your 504, so we created the line based on the software that you were already utilizing. You were already paying for it. It's just now in the correct area, and that is to manage your 504s. So that guidance software is for that purpose.
What is guidance enrichment?
Now I'm gonna get to the, so that, and we've had in the past at 3,000, we were looking to add a little bit more, and, you know, this is for enrichment activities, twofold, for K-8 students. We have a big push into social emotional learning this year, moving into next year. We started it last year. What that incorporates is, you may have heard of our Kindness Week and some of the other things that we do at the schools to really promote kids learning how to regulate their own emotions and how they react to each other. So we feel that making sure we have solid guidance services is important to maintain the mental health of our school. Part of this is bringing in people to come and talk to our students. We're having a gentleman come in later in the year, Ed Garrity, he's a friend of mine from Actors Phenomenal. Just great motivational speaker to help kids understand and help them understand how to regulate their emotions. I keep saying that we have a program called Zones of Regulation, so it will dovetail with some of the things that we do. Our guidance counselors actually actively teach, so they go into the classrooms and teach these skills. So we like to have activities that support that, such as outside speakers, as I mentioned, coming in. We also take our students, particularly the middle school students, away to do ropes courses and team building pieces, and that there is cost associated with doing that. That's predominantly what we've done with this. We have talked about bringing in other speakers for parents as well around this idea to help dovetail, you know, tie it home in school, and that's what some of the additional costs we're looking at doing.
This is, I think, becoming a really key area that the school board and the administration are very interested in. It's the social emotional learning, it's executive function skills, which are just terms for kids that need to learn time management. When they get to high school, they need to be able to focus on the appropriate work, manage their emotions, learn how to work with other people. When you go to some of these meetings that we have, you hear employers saying that kids coming straight out of high school really are not prepared for the workforce. And when they get into high school, especially coming from smaller schools into larger environments, they can sometimes be anxious. And so these are things I think that are maybe not what we experienced when we were in school, but these are really important elements for students to learn how to manage their time, how to do
Somewhat like
project
social
planning.
skills?
Yeah.
Social
That could be part of
skills,
it, yeah,
it's like, you have to know how to manage your time, you have to know how to prioritize your work, you have to know how to work well with others. And a lot of that stuff can be modeled, and that's what I think we're really trying to work on here. And we just came away from a high school. The school board meets regularly with our high schools. We just came from a meeting last night, and they're actually really working hard to change some of their curriculum to incorporate some of this, so that these kids have life skills as well and can manage some of these things. So it's new, and sometimes I think it sounds a little bit silly to some people sometimes, but there are a lot of kids out there going into high school that have a lot of anxiety, and a lot of it is because they can't manage projects or time or
And regulate
themselves, and they need to have that worked on before they get into a bigger environment.
In addition, a strong SEL, social emotional learning program, will help long-term mental health for students as they develop. So it really piggybacks up on that.
Yeah, I'm sorry if I sometimes use, you know, SEL, like you should know, you know, so, yeah, but it's that social emotional awareness, you know, the kids they have. And we know what important mental health is in our country now. We've had Judge Broderick come in. If you're not familiar with Chief Justice Broderick, just, if you get a chance to see him speak, it's absolutely amazing. But he's really been pushing his mental health. He had some family history, although being very tragic. And he's managed to get some great lessons. I think he spoke to the entire SAU staff. There wasn't a dry eye in the place about his history. But it really hammers home the importance of making sure we destigmatize that and understand what we can do. And I think it starts at this young age.
And as we expect more of students and expect them to do more and to get higher grades and to achieve more and test them more, it's really important that we also attend to social and emotional learning.
And I gotta tell you, our guidance counselors are some of the hardest working people we have. They really, they're asking for this, but you should know, they've also, based on their connections and their hard work, we've not contracted, but we've connected with a local counseling agency that is now coming into our school and delivering counseling services for students because some parents couldn't make it, couldn't drive. Also, some parents couldn't have insurance, so they're gonna give us some pro bono counseling as well because of their outreach. So and that's all happening at no cost to us at all.
If you're moved to page 9, I think all of that's pretty static. Where I did talk about ESL, that's at the bottom. Looking at that, you do have some contracted services, that's a decrease based on student need. And unless anything changes, that would stay pretty static at that cost right there. So. If you move to page 10, one of the things that we've done, and you'll see this in a couple different areas, this is one of the first spots that I kind of highlighted it, is that if you look at your contracted behavioral technician, there's a $1 marker in there, and that's really so that we don't lose the line in case it's needed again down the line. It just shows history, and if you wind up needing it, say all of a sudden you have a move-in and you wind up needing that, you can't spend it because there's no line for it. Right. So keeping that dollar marker in there, that's something that the BA is very strongly advocating for, putting $1 markers in where there's lines that we've used to keep our history, as well as to make sure that if we need to, we can spend it. Other than that, I think pretty much page 9 is pretty static as well. I'm sorry, page 10. All the expenses there are much out of the control. They're all the sunk costs.
So the student salaries and
These are just contractual rate increases for salary,
Yep.
and then obviously insurance, we know that where that's going, so.
Correct, insurance, and then the almost 8% change in retirement is a huge driver as well in that. We're looking at that.
Moving on to improvement of instruction, which begins at the bottom of page 10. These are funds, particularly that first line of resource development, that we set aside funds for students. Excuse me, I have a cold, I'm very sorry. But for teachers who do work over the summer developing curriculum, we get huge bang for our buck for that. Almost every staff, we overspend it. We wind up tapping into grant funds to pay up because we have so many teachers coming in, and oftentimes we'll pay them for 6 hours of work. They'll be in the building for 12 hours getting the work done. So it's really just again, we treat them professionally. They'll go above and beyond. And we've redone much of our curriculum as we look at the competency programs that the state now mandates, and what we call is performance-based assessment, which is those hands-on assessments. If you think science labs, we want those type of assessments happening across the board in all subject matter. So our staff is really pushing that. This is a big year for us to be developing those, and that's going to staff. We'll see them doing those in the summertime. So that's what that line is for. As we go down, we see the increases, again, really helping us head in that direction. There's a great course tuition reimbursement. We're just trying to bring that in line with some of the spending we've had in the past. And the in-service training, this went up. This has gone up and down over the years, but somewhat consistent, but we increased it by 4,000. There's a group in New Hampshire called Demonstrated Success. We're looking at contracting with them to help guide us through creating these performance assessments, as well as look at our grading reform, and how we're grading and assessing our kids. We've looked into and we put bids out to 3 major national groups to do this. This group came in at the least expensive, the ones that were most eager to tailor it to our needs instead of us adopting, these other companies' work, and they're right out of New Hampshire in the seacoast area. So they're like, we need people. Okay, we'll be here. And
So in more layman's term, what is it?
right, so they're going to come in, provide consultants that come talk to our teachers and say, hey, how do I do this? How do I make this lesson plan hit these 12 kids who have 12 different learning styles? What am I gonna do? I only know how to do 3, I need to hit 12, and they'll work right with us.
A teacher's coach. That's
Thank
the
you.
easiest way
Sorry.
to do it. Teacher's coach.
That makes a lot.
Does this tie in with your professional development as well, which the state does require that school boards have a professional development program and fund it?
So, but this falls outside of the line for the, what was it, tuition reimbursement that we looked at earlier? That, the unexpended,
Tuition reimbursement is normally for individuals.
Right, if they're gonna go and take a course somewhere,
That's
what
right
tuition
above that.
reimbursement comes in.
okay,
This is, we're gonna pay the money to join this consortium. We have access to, 7 or 8 coaches to come in and hit us on a monthly basis. They'll be at our staff meetings once a month. They'll be, 3-4 times a year coming in for full days to work with us.
The good thing about that, while that does look like a large expense, is you're bringing personnel into your building, which is a benefit as opposed to sending 1 or 2 staff members out for one-day shots. This is bringing them in as a continual coaching method, and it really is able to hit all of our staff as opposed to just some of the staff, and it also helps to reduce the number of staff out of the building on a given day for trainings and workshops.
Will that be piggybacked on the teacher workshop days, or how will that be implemented?
Yes, we have to start looking at building our calendar, but by contract, we only have 2 real workshop days that we can access in the middle of the year. And we usually build in, I think it's 4 early release days or 5 early release days throughout the year as well for the afternoons. When we put the early release days on a Tuesday, that's when we normally have our staff meetings. That's a 3-hour chunk of time we can access. So they'll come in during those times as well. They'll also come in on days when our teachers just are gonna be meeting. Our teachers also meet by team and during the middle of the school day. So they'll come in during those days, maybe be with us all day and meet with every single team. That might be a couple of people that do that. So it'll be both. I mean, pretty much when we met with them, we wanted to eke out every bit of PD time we could throughout the year. And they would, again, they'll adapt to us as opposed to the other companies wanted us to adopt their strategies and go to San Diego and do those kind of things.
Going right now.
Well, and I think, they had those 2 lines are where you see that, the big increase coming from instruction. That 10% increase.
So then you're gonna start moving down to instruction and curriculum development. You'll see in the salary line, what we have done is we have put a 3% marker in for all non-CBA employees as a 3% marker for now. And that's gonna be something we would be looking at, but that's a marker to show some kind of an increase so that it gives you a more representative budget than saying it's flat now and then come back to you and say we need more money. So we put a 3% marker in at that for anybody who is not under the collective bargaining agreement.
What is the collective bargaining agreement?
That's your-
Giving for, no, I know what it is. What are they getting for an increase across the board?
8.7?
No,
They wouldn't be that high.
They have
That'd be
a
nice.
grid that.
Oh, 'cause they
Yeah,
have
it's
steps.
a grid,
Step by
yeah.
step, so step to step, it varies. We can bring the contract in and you can
It's
look at the
actually-
I think
grid.
it's in here.
It is in
Yeah.
here, it's on a tab, but it's a grid, so it's not fixed for each person.
The last contract that we worked on, we tried to emphasize a bit of the newer hires, so we could attract, quality new hires. So it's always just a negotiation.
when is that contract up?
I think we've got 1 more year on that one. This year they're negotiating the paraprofessional.
Yeah.
So next year will be about that again. It goes fast.
It
does.
Yeah.
So that gives you some of those costs. And you move on to page 12.
Track change. So our librarian had a track change in salary. That's why that's an increase. And then we we see some smaller increases due to just like an increase in supplies, et cetera.
And again, the increase due to retirement and health insurance.
And I want to make sure I'm making clear too, and so when we say step change, it's based on the contract. They have taken another graduate class or earned credits to bump their salary up based on the contract rate, so again, that's an obligation.
If they receive their masters from the previous contract to this contract, there'd be a large jump.
All right, so under computer assisted instruction, which is the bottom of page 12. So where you see the big increases here, a little bit one on internet access, and that, again, we have bumped up to 100 megs, or we're in really great shape for our connectivity now. In the past few years, started at 40, I think, now. Last year, we began to bump up, and this year we're at a full 100 meg, which is what the state and then national,
There was an article, I think, about a year ago too, and we were one of
It
the
was on
few
NPR.
schools that wasn't at that level, although we had some repeaters in place and so forth, so we felt like we were okay,
Yeah,
but it is a necessary, we were never in a place where we were in a deficient situation as it appeared, but yet we had planned to
Right, we-
move
I
up.
think, yeah, I was gonna say, I think I remember you last year or a year before talking about doing like contemplating doing a step-up process, and was it worth it or not, and I think you guys determined that it wasn't, just to
Right.
get up to that 100 megs, and
Yeah, exactly, because we weren't growing our infrastructure fast enough. We didn't want to be just a light switch and say, hey, let's spend all this money, we weren't using it. So as our needs increased is how we decided to make sure we were going along.
Right.
And now, all the state testing, all the national testing is all done online now by computers, so across the board, having that connectivity is very important for us. So that's, and we're one-to-one in grades 6, 7, and 8. Even fifth grade, majority of our students now have access to it, so it's, all our textbooks are online now too, so
Yeah,
it's.
but to do all that testing, you've got, what, 100 kids all at once firing up to get into a testing window for the state, and you need to be able to not have delays as you're firing up, so.
That's, the more devices using it at one
Yeah.
time, the
That
faster.
spinning wheel. So down that, our software line is up, and it's outlined there, and it's up for two reasons. One, and it's not necessarily a drop, because we're adding some other software in its place, but we used to have our web to school for $4,400 in a different line. That was it, and so this is a better place to put it, trying to consolidate for clarity. Also, our Sophos antivirus software, we had to re-up it and renew the program that we had, and so that was a significant cost. For the next couple of years, we'll see that, and then we'll have no cost for another couple of years while we use that. And that's the antivirus software. Firewall's the same kind of thing. Web to School is our student management software, so we do all of our grading, attendance, those kind of things. Enforce 1200, that's a change from what used to be CopSync. And what that is on every single computer in our school, or that every single staff computer, let me rephrase that, we have the ability to link and send out an emergency signal that would go out to police officers in the immediate area. Not just in Nottingham, but many of our surrounding towns, all the way to Concord. So in case there was something in the building where there was a need of a response that's quick, I hate to say an active shooter, but if you think of that in a sense, a classroom teacher can see that, can click on that, and it sends a silent alarm out to all the police officers in the area. They can respond immediately. So that-
Regardless of what town, we don't have to wait, it's just whoever's closest, it's not just, it's for anything, any call out of the
Yeah,
school.
I would say a catastrophic event, whether it's
Yeah.
a spill outside or something like that, and there's a need for assistance, that's right there.
Closest
That's a
ones
good-
will
yeah.
come.
Now, that's not our protocol to have that happen all the time typically, but again, for those
Big ones,
catastrophic,
yeah,
big
important
ones.
things.
And we have agreements with all the surrounding towns, all the other schools have
Mhm.
that as well, the police departments do, and we're in sync with our police department. IXL we've had that for a while, that's it's an online resource for students to take. They can go on there and they can do math and a lot of things. They just expanded. You had mentioned some of
They do, English, I keep wanting to say.
ELA.
that.
I know, as a reading.
Language
Thank you.
arts.
Language arts.
Social studies is out there, it's
Some
great.
science.
And they can do it
And
at home. So if you wanna give your kids screen time that's productive, they can do this at home with the,
And teachers can keep track of it and get reports on it, so they might assign that for homework in a sense, and
It drives my daughter nuts.
Yeah,
She
She
parents-
does the math thing, and it gets to like 98, and then she
And
gets
then it
one wrong,
drops.
she's back down to
Yeah.
like 75.
yeah.
You hear this yelling and screaming
it's
going
that's a
on.
good social skill to build. Put back in the-
It's a nice tool for parents too, because they can monitor it. It can be used all summer long, and it's actually a nice offering, because if a parent were to choose to use it, it'd be about $80 a year just for the parent to use it per student, per user. So doing it through the school, you're getting a much better price doing it for every student.
And I think as you see, and it may be hard to see it this go around, but if you think, you know, when I'm thinking 10 years down the road as we play this chess game at times, with our increase in technology. You know, on that note, we're looking at 25 new Chromebooks to refresh the ones that we now are 5 years old, and warranty. They're doing pretty well overall, and, but we're always looking to make sure we're staying ahead of that curve if we can, particularly how quickly technology changes. I will say that our Chromebook investment has been outstanding. The 5-year-old Chromebooks are still working very well overall. It's only when the hardware's damaged. The nice thing about a Chromebook, and I highly recommend them, is that Google refreshes its software automatically, so it never goes out of date for the most part. The hardware can go out of date, but the software never does, because it's all run on the Google OS. So. What that means is that the kids who had it, the old one, the kids who get the new Chromebook, do the same thing. Sorry. All right, that's computers.
And then other support staff, you'll see that same 3% marker for the raise increase.
we will typically run those contracts through legal. I think it's just wise to do that. So we will have some additional needs there. But everything else there is fairly flat. It's down, as you can see, because we've lowered the attorney piece, and nothing unusual.
So on page 15 at the top, again, you can see one of those recoding issues where there's, the new line is at the top, so 205312,000 is the new line, and you can see the amount that was put into it is there. That again is not fixed. That won't be decided until December 10th when there's a vote on that, but that's just a number in there to put a marker in.
Some of the things that are gonna be coming up on that, include a request for new software, financial software. That's something the board will be considering. We need to discuss any salary for the preschool and also the SAU office. And we have had staffing changes, so some of the salaries have actually gone down with different staffing. So at this point, we're nominally increased from what we've got in front of us right now. However, if we do the software piece, that would be, I think, was it about 70,000 we were thinking?
Yes, and the software, as you can see in the notes,
Is this the ADP software?
this is.
Yes. We're at an end of life where they're starting to not give us technical, they'll give you technical support, but they can't fix patches, so when they find an error in the system, the engineering behind it's not there anymore. They'll do their best to give us technical support to fix things, but they can't always get it completely. It's an end-of-life software. So at this point, they are phasing it out and trying to move their next product. That big cost is only a 1-year cost, an up cost to get us started, to come in and do the training, to get everything squared away, and then it would go back down to the, it's not exactly the same cost, but it would go down to the same, that yearly maintenance fee. Right, so that first year, that kickoff is an expense. So that's what we're looking at there.
So was this not budgeted or planned for? I mean, because I know the end of life cycle was, I think we were notified 2 years ago or 2.5 years ago that they were going to sunset this program.
Right.
And now it's the 11th hour.
It's not, well, I don't know, I wouldn't say it's quite the 11th hour. I mean, they're still getting, they still are getting services. If they have a problem, they can get services. So at this time, it was, the new business administrator decided to really look into it and see what's happening. He had come from a district that had just done it, so he had some familiarity with it. So we could phase this, we could wait. That's what the board is discussing right now. Is it imminent? Do we have to do it right away? Should we do it,
And there is a technology meeting tomorrow being held at the SAU. I believe it starts at 10. They're going to be doing a video conference.
10?
I think
Right.
10,
I
right?
think it's 11.
Is it 11? Okay.
There.
You
So-
almost 11?
So
Later in the morning.
well, if you're there, you can join us for a little while and just hang out. But it is posted online, so there's a conference, and what's going to happen is Tyler Tech is going to give us a video chat conference to explain the process and the program, to tell us the differences and how it would be more beneficial than what's currently in place.
So, and this portion is just cost is just our portion.
That's correct.
For the SAU.
That's correct.
right, so we'd have to pay probably, any increase that comes in, we'll be paying 39+%.
Right.
So this is last year's budget.
Okay.
Okay.
So, but we're not in a situation where we just have to take the first thing that comes in the door.
What we did do is, no, you don't have to. We did price it out. We
Okay.
did price it out.
Talk about it, we'll, hopefully the other piece of it is your payroll.
The software,
is
right?
a payroll company, and this is
Right.
ADS, and
Yes.
yeah, it's still around. I think Tyler Technology.
Tyler
owns it.
Technology owns it, but they are, like you said, they're sunsetting it. It's
Yeah.
starting to go away, and they're gonna keep providing us technical service for a little while, but whether we do it now or next year or the year after, at some point, there's gonna be that startup cost is going to be there.
They're not providing as many services and as quickly as they have been in the past.
And that's,
And it's not as complete. So there are a lot more they're saying a lot more, well, you know, there's nothing we can do about that.
Right.
And
They've-
it's like,
they've
well,
removed
you
their
should be able to do
engineers.
something about it.
So they
Yeah.
patch, they just don't upgrade.
They patch, they just don't upgrade, so they've removed engineers to problem solve. They'll patch it if we give them an issue, but they're at that point where it's
They're
moving
not
forward.
adding and upgrading that
Right.
system. So it'll be an interesting conversation.
Yes. So our next area is the principal's office. Again, you see a 3% marker, and then I'm gonna let,
And the majority of the increased costs there are without, you know, their contractual and health insurance, and retirement. I'm sure I am spending some of my course money.
What'd you say?
I am spending some of my course money this year in the last couple
Thank
of
you.
past, so. Taking classes.
you know, let me just talk about the big ones before.
When you start going down, you see that there's, you know, there's a couple of increases, the one big one, 150, it's a small dollar amount, but it's, for our via phone maintenance system. We just have an older phone system, and so actually what we've been able to do based on, we reached out and we had a donor who used the same system in the past, who donated a lot of equipment to us, so our tech manager does a lot of the repairs themselves anymore, or now. So we'll be able to actually cut our costs from having a contract with the company. So we just use now, this is a much smaller amount that we need just for phone maintenance for the system. Go down and get the computer software supplies. And right now, we're still talking to the companies. So that number will not go up, but it may go down a bit, but we're piloting something called Pickup Patrol. If you go to our website, there's a couple of videos on there for it. Currently, right now, Pam will get notes when students want to either change the bus they're going on or get picked up by a parent or vice versa. They call Pam. Pam writes a note, the note gets, or they send a note in. The note gets logged in 3 different places, so that way the bus company gets it, the bus driver gets it, the teacher gets it, we keep track of it. It takes about, on the first week of school, when we looked at it, it takes about 3 hours a day of just manipulating paperwork back and forth. Particularly, you want to be hypersensitive to it. You want to be sure, because these are kids getting on the wrong bus, going to the wrong place. So this will save all that time, because it allows parents to directly log on, whether it be their phone or their computer, and do electronic notes or changes. And we'll have like a cutoff at, say, 1:50. 40 minutes before the end of the day, it stops, and at that point in time, you would have to make a phone call if you wanted to change, and you still could do that. But then teachers can get online, we'll print out a list, the bus drivers will get one big sheet list, so they'll know exactly what kids are gonna be on the bus. We'll know how many students are gonna be on the bus. Earlier this fall, we had some issues where students were taking a bus to go to like a camp after school, and we wound up having too many students all of a sudden wanted to go on a bus, because they weren't normally assigned to that bus, but parents were writing notes. And Pam, we have no way to know how many kids are gonna be getting on that bus because of sports and stuff too. This program will help us deal with that, and it should be a lot more efficient for parents as well.
So is it being used right now?
We're gonna be piloting it, we're uploading all the data, you have to front load all the data. So basically what we're doing is our assistant principal Holrich, Jeff, he's typing in every student's name, their address, what bus route they have now for each day, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday, the week. So it's you have to put all that data in first by hand. And then we'll go back and work with the company, and our goal is to get a grade or two, or a class or two, I should say, to pilot it. We'll contact some parents and say, hey, you want to give this a shot? Yeah.
I'm guilty of sending like a note a day, so I would love to be on that.
And so would that be
The
used
child that changes
in addition just to
schedule.
like an early dismissal or as well, or just for bus?
It could be both.
So I don't have to buy another book of those things that you said.
Pam was very sad about that. We're out of them now. We're ordering a small amount just for sentimental reasons.
And currently, that company's giving a 90-day trial for the school to really try to figure out how to best use it. So
But
that's
you're using that 90 to basically upload everything into it right now?
and then
Okay.
pilot it.
And we'll pilot it. And then we can walk away if we want, if we don't like it, or get a prorated rate for this year. That'll help us determine what next year's supposed to be. Video equipment. We did the climate survey. the school climate survey, which is a culture and climate survey. It wasn't about the climate of the planet, which I know I had to clear up a couple of times, I put that out there. And one of the things that came up was around student voice, empowerment, and communication. And so we were looking at, you know, what type of equipment can we put in the hands of students, or what kind can we use? And I wanted to put something, a line in there that maybe a microphone, a nice quality microphone. And I did a podcast with, I interviewed some 6th grade students, and they're hysterical. It was a good time. But just that kind of equipment, that was $100 for a quality microphone. I used my own home computer for that, because, and I purchased it, so I think I can see this stuff just that the school could use, and even other teachers can do it, kids can do it themselves with other students. And so that was my train of thought when I put that money in there for those things. Those are the,
Extra desks or a replacement?
oh, I'm sorry, a new desk, that's a replacement desk. Michelle's desk, which is the admin assistant from right off my office. She's looking at something with different shelves and layers, and also something more lockable. We have a lot of confidential information in our office. It's a wide open office. There's no walls or barriers. We are looking at maybe putting in some walls just ourselves even. And oftentimes there'll be confidential information on a desk when parents or people are coming up to her. So we wanted more lockable storage, and also maybe more of a barrier so people couldn't necessarily see over it. And the desk she has is certainly one that's been well loved and well used. So. And that's the first schools line.
Yeah.
Operation and maintenance?
So page 17. The bookkeepers up top on them.
The bookkeeper, you know, we had as you know, many years ago, 3 years ago or so now, we had a bookkeeper. We're keeping $1 on the line, and those services are now coming out of the SAU office.
So you'll see that, what, for 3 years till that $1 phases out?
I think we can there in case we feel we don't need any additional.
As it said, maintenance health insurance, that went down.
Staff changes.
But the salary goes up?
Well, the assistant custodian salary.
Oh,
goes
assistant
down.
I didn't see that, yep, okay. Thank you.
Should we double check that just in case?
Yeah.
We'll take a look and just make sure that that's netting properly.
I know that Mr. Souza can speak to this a little more detailed. He told us about it, but you see a large increase, the largest increase being that of lawn care. And that's
Right, so let's just scroll down. Lawn care's the first increase we'll talk about. We're just ending a 3-year contract with the company. We put it out to bid 3 years ago. We only had one bid. When I first came here, we had no companies, and so it was difficult to find someone to come and cut the lawns and maintain the grounds. We're at the end of that cycle. What we asked for when we put it out to bid is, can we have a level contract for 3 years? That way we're not having to play increases in the budget or whatnot, so it's easier to budget for us. And so now, this year I called a couple of companies, including the one that we have, and just asked them for an idea, what would it be looking like for next year, so in case we were to do we are gonna do an RFP, asking for bids again, you know, what's the ballpark price increases now, because we're going by a 3-year-old number that was leveled. And the numbers I got were around $18,000 to $20,000 per year.
How many fields are we taking care of?
That's not just the fields, that's all of the grass, the mulching, the trimming,
For everything around the school?
leaves, everything around, soup to nuts.
The playground, all
playground.
that,
Yep, spreading of the mulch, the wood chips.
and those wood chips are different in a playground than they are for regular gardening.
Right.
Shouldn't you change that note instead of saying lawn maintenance to maybe look better, to have it say something more of, facility and grounds
Entire
maintenance?
ground
Yeah.
maintenance.
Yeah.
Cause 18,000, you think to mow the lawn into see would be
I'll come do it, yeah.
cost more than the trash pickup that we're taking for the whole school.
Yeah.
Does that maintenance too, for them, the contract, doing the grounds, is that including the plowing, or everyone got?
No, the plowing, the town helps us with the plowing, and then we did. Grounds and maintenance, and the tractor alone was 1 year's cost. And then you're gonna throw in the hours of taking care of it.
No, the explanation is great, and once you say it's the whole grounds,
Yeah, yeah.
when you say lawn, it just feels like we're taking care of the back fields or
Yeah.
something. Yeah. It's a clarification, so other people that read it,
Yeah, I'll change that now.
so that they don't get that,
Sticker shock.
exactly.
On the next page, under maintenance and grounds, there's a repair there as well, an increase. That's because we had a sinkhole this year. We've had a couple sinkholes over the last couple of years, some smaller, some larger ones. We had a large one in the main entranceway to the school, the driveway that was repaired for $3,000. We know that there are two more that are smaller, that we're concerned about failing. So we want to put in place some monies to repair those. But regardless if they get worse, but we certainly don't get worse.
Is there anything you can do proactively, or?
Well, we've done some work proactively with, you can't do much until you know it's there. And then you either completely dig it out and kind of guess where it is, or start digging, or you patch it and fill it and see, you watch it. And, you know, as you see where it goes, we're fortunate enough, we don't anticipate any like huge, you know, gaping holes opening up and swallowing cars and that kind of thing all of a sudden. But
I don't think we anticipate that.
yeah, so, but there are just some smaller holes, and as we see them grow, in the meantime, what we do is we fill it with sand. We work with the town, they come over and they help and they check with us. Again, just to get that great relationship with the town to come over and service it for us.
So less a sinkhole, more a pothole.
It still
Well,
has
but
tar
it's
in it,
not-
so it's just kind of sinking in with the tar on top of it.
Oh, so there's still tar on it, there's
in
not
a
an
lot of
actual
cases,
gaping
In a
hole?
lot of
Still on
cases,
there.
and then
Yeah.
as the hole gets bigger and the ground washes out, so the tar will
Right.
crumble inside of it. So we'll fill it with sand and dirt and rocks.
That's that New England weather.
Yeah.
Lose the school bus.
Note to self, don't park where you see the tar line.
And then our general supplies, that just went up just because the cost of supplies are going up.
And you're looking at some, new thing for the
Oh.
pump house and
Yes.
Okay, that was on,
the,
Where was that?
it's at the very
On
bottom of
17.
17.
Yeah.
Oh, right, the previous, yeah. So, the pump house and the shed on Knights Field, we need to replace the roofs over that, so, we've added a few $1,000s into there for that. So overall, anticipating, operations are down a bit from last year. That's the end of 18.
So looking at page 19, starts to look at transportation. You can see,
Can I stop you just for a second?
yeah, definitely.
Page 18, you have the historical expenditures there for propane and stuff. Is that just a rate increase between 17 and 18? The $10,000 difference? Or did we start using some new equipment or services or?
Propane went up.
I have notes in the whole.
I think didn't propane cost?
Propane went up, but I mean, it bounces back and forth, but that's a huge jump. And I'm looking back, I mean, 14, 15 went from 62,000, and then it suddenly dropped down to 40,000.
I think depends
I
on
was
the
just curious, that's all.
temperatures probably too.
Yeah,
Whatever.
yeah. Fair enough, I was just
Check
curious.
that and just see, I know I have notes somewhere, but just check and see what we had put in for the prior period.
Yeah.
Get that answer for you.
So you can see, if you start looking at the top of the page and you're looking at transportation costs, you can see some of them going up. Some of that's by contract. Other costs, you can see that currently the homeless transportation for elementary has gone down. That's because currently you don't have any students receiving transportation. So we put a dollar marker in there knowing that that could potentially be overspent, but you don't want to put it in there if you don't have anything currently. And then if you look at your special education transport for elementary, you can see that that went down. That again went down because you had a student who no longer needed some of that transportation who's come back. So that's a cost savings. And there is an additional cost in there. It kind of bounced out. It actually would have gone down a little more, but we, based on preschool runs, we added another bus to the preschool runs. It was required. The drives were an hour and a half for some of our preschool kids for a 2.5-hour program. So instead of doing 2 buses, we are now looking at 3 buses, and we just wound up dividing that between all the districts, and it makes for a much shorter bus run for all of our students. Because really, there were some students who were facing an 1.5-hour ride on the bus, and it was pretty rough for a 2.5-hour program. So we looked at that. Otherwise, it would have gone down more drastically. Okay.
Back at the top, the 8 buses, is that all, or are we
That
running
includes-
7?
That
That-
includes the
that-
missing bus.
That includes.
That
okay.
includes it. Hopefully, we'll get a bus driver to be able to do that. So right now, that includes them all, because the hope would be to get a pink bus driver. or a bus driver for the pink bus.
Right.
So that includes your co-brown routes as well. And again, if you look at the bottom, you can see some of the lines where they're new for ESY Transportation High School and Special Ed Transportation ESY Elementary. Those again are recodes to make sure that they're accurate and broken out. They used to be involved in some of your other special ed transportation, but again, during the audit, they asked us to recode them. So just want to put that, make sure that was there.
Would it be reasonable to ask sometime when, these happen every year, that their accounts are recoded, and it used to be this account, now it's this account. Could the line have a note, or even in the title, the line that it used to be, the account that it used to be, so that we can say, okay, it was that line, but, oh, look, there's 4,000 more in it this year. But it's easier to see changes when the account gets shifted and you need to
Just
reference
make
back.
reference to the chart of account changes to
Yeah.
the former line and the current line, and make a
Yes,
note in there so we know where to look.
If it's too cumbersome to go retrofit this budget, just keep that in mind for next year's, or
Okay.
I think it'd be fine
works.
to probably add a note, because it does help.
Yeah, I think it does make sense. That's why I'm trying to highlight it again when I see them, but I think you're right. If it was in there so that when you're reflecting on it at a later time, I think that makes it much more clear. So I'll definitely, I added myself a note to take that back, so when we're
Okay,
developing
thanks.
this. You're welcome. And then at the bottom of the page, again, looking at your non-CBA, you see that represents a step or a 3% increase. So there's some, while it's not a straight 3% across the 2.51, it's because there's a staff change as well. So it still goes down even though it's the 3%. And then following that, those are a lot of just sunk costs that are out of the control. So you're looking at total increase of 2.35 in total food service.
Milk.
Dairy farmers.
Yeah.
Gosh. So then you start looking, at the very bottom, you're starting to look at high school regular education. You can see a large increase there for tuition, Dover and other public high schools. That increase is based off the fact that last year you saw a shift from your 8th graders going to Co-Brown to going to Dover, so we made that shift accordingly in the budget. So you're gonna see an increase there. It looks like their rates have gone up drastically. It's not that their rates have gone up that much, it's just that we are anticipating more students going there. Okay.
We don't even have, we don't have their rates.
We won't have their rates, and we won't have those until about this time next year.
So we always have to just estimate on Dover.
Is there a cap in the contract with Dover, or?
There's a 4% cap in the contract with Dover, but that is a conversation we've had many times. That was something that was really wanted in there, but the reality of that is that it's more or less a suggestion, because
It's not a cap.
it's
Not.
It's advisory.
Our only alternative would be to say, we're going to tail our students out if we don't care for it. So it's really not something that, and we've received increases every year, I believe, initially in excess of that, and I think this year came in excess of it. We got our real numbers.
Initially, it was 11%, and then.
We've had 11, we've had 7,
This last one was about 4.
4.8.
So we did put a 5% marker in on that, for the tuition, not knowing what it would be, so that would help to do that.
And we don't get that number until September, October.
Right.
How many students do we have? I mean, I know we have like 500 some students over at Co-Brown. How many
We have
students do we have?
100 and, around 100 and, I'm gonna say 147 or 150. It just recently, I'm gonna say it's
Currently?
150 at Co-Brown.
So if you turn to the next page, I know it's really short, because the where it is, it kind of gives you a note based on the students attending to Dover right now, and what we're projecting the cost will be per student. And then what the tuition is for the other schools and what we're projecting, as well as what the cost for Co-Brown will be.
Why do we pay the full amount for Portsmouth?
In the best interest of the student, we'll have
Had to apply
sometimes,
to the district.
yeah. And those are negotiated rates.
So what we've done too in this is based on not knowing what we did, we put a marker in there for Co-Brown. So if more students decide to go to Dover than to Co-Brown, you're gonna see your budget decrease again. So you did have a larger amount. We projected what it would be, but with a brand new school and a lot of services over there, you might see that number go up even more that's going to Dover, which will lower the cost at Co-Brown, as well as raise the cost at Dover, but the cost offset, it's cheaper tuition at Dover anyway.
Well, we think.
We think,
We
we
don't
don't
have
know, we don't know. Again, we don't know, but based on our projections, it's
Based on-
cheaper,
yeah.
right?
So, I mean, Co-Brown has brought in their costs at 2.84%.
So,
So, percentage-wise, Dover has been higher percentage every year, but starting from a smaller base.
yes,
The 2.84,
Closing the gap.
the 2.84% is estimated, or we know that that's?
No, no.
that is the fixed number at this point. We got that this morning. So we changed all this morning to get these numbers to you.
Thank you. Yeah, they met last night.
Yes. In there too, for some clarification, I just want to point it out because we've looked at it a number of different ways. In case you look over the note at Co-Brown, I want to make sure that it's highlighted here so that if there's any question or confusion. What we've done is we held 2 regular ed student tuitions to offset our all ed costs. So where we put it in at $33,272, that has never been your cost for the program for the use up at the SAU. However, we put that in there as a basis, and what is not used would be reimbursed. Okay, but it's there just in case. Currently, you have 2 students there now, so that's why we chose to use 2 students. And for some of those students, we still have to pay a tuition to Co-Brown, to a portionated tuition, because they're supplying some of the curriculum. So you pay for a portion of it, and then you'll get some back billing, but that's what that indicates there.
What is the all then?
All that is with Mr. Holton upstairs at the SAU. If you have a student who is in high school who might not otherwise graduate and needs some additional services that one of our high schools that we have agreements with can't provide, it's really a dropout preventative. And sometimes it's mental health. A lot of it is the mental health aspect. That if you have a student with some mental health issues or just health issues in general, he can provide some assistance there to get them back on track so that they can re-enter the school. The goal is never to have them with Mr. Holton up in our program the entire 4 years. The goal is to assist them in their time of need during their health crisis and then get them back into the buildings. So that's a way for them not to lose credits and fall behind, so they can still graduate with their peers.
Some students have anxiety issues, they see a fair amount of that, and they simply can't go to high school for a while, so just have this alternative program to support them.
Or
in the
they're
interim.
medical fragile as well.
Yeah.
So you have some of that too, to where he can provide some of that assistance outside. So there have been times when he's gone and met with students at home who can't get to the building.
So typically, the high school would credit us the tuition amount.
That's correct.
So this would only be for those instances where we think part of, and a lot of times, the high school will still provide some supports too, so.
That's correct. And he's a certified teacher, both regular and special ed, so it's a nice feature.
What about on the move-ins? How come we're not budgeting any?
This year, we hadn't put anything in there at this point, we're still talking about it. We know last year we had 5 in there, I believe, and we didn't use them. So, at this point, we've opted not to have those in there. But again, we may have some need, because if someone does move into the district, because we are tuitioning students out, it would be difficult for us we'd have to pull that from elsewhere in the budget, so it could be a big issue.
You said you're doing an enrollment analysis?
I'm sorry.
You're doing an enrollment review
We did
or
an
analysis?
enrollment analysis about a year, maybe a year and a quarter ago at this point. And we have pockets right now. Grades 5, 6, 7, and 8 are high, to the point where it's impacting procurement of textbooks and things of that nature. It's impacting access to some of the science stations, and we just have higher enrollment in those grades. We are looking at NESDEC to provide a fresher one, so that we can use that with our space advisory group and see what things look like. But to be candid with you, I'd be very interested to see how this one looks, but the first one we got some years back was way too high. I think the one we got recently was way too low, so I don't know how much.
Does that look at high school too? Because if we're high on those
Well,
middle
it's gonna
school
look at your
grades.
8th grade, and that's what's gonna be feeding. So for
Right,
the next several
yeah.
years, next
Yeah, you're
3
gonna
to
see
They're
4
gonna be
it all go
higher.
up,
you're gonna be experiencing heavy tuition,
heavy increases.
regardless of what school we select, because we have higher enrollment into high school.
How many, not that you know that off the top of your head, but how many building permits
That's
do we
what I
have
was
out there
wondering
with
is,
new houses?
how many houses are we building?
That would be a question for the building inspector.
Yeah.
But, we do,
There's
there are
significant-
some.
yeah.
I don't know the number off the top of my head, but I do have a quick question though in regards to the student population. What would be the ratio, or what's the impact of, how many families there are in town that do homeschooling?
We have, where's that enrollment report? We have a minimal amount of homeschool, and we do track it.
Your enrollment report is all the way back towards the back, yep.
It's in the enrollment report. Which, is that there?
Yeah.
So it's a few tabs back.
So,
So if you look at homeschool right up there on the upper left of that page, in district, we have 508 students. Our previous actuals to you were 503. We have had some additional students this year. Homeschool is standing steady at 8, K-8, and I don't think we've got 9
So-
homeschool students.
So we're not seeing a significant impact from,
I don't think that's a material impact for homeschooling.
okay.
And we do, I mean, as these are our students, whether they're homeschooled or not, and many of them do avail those services at our school.
Right. So they're entitled to
They
come
are
in.
entitled to come into our public school and,
Mhm.
you know, play sports and
Sure.
Music.
use our facilities, and we're happy about that.
So then that brings you down to the high school special education portion. And you're, again, the first two lines, you're looking at those recoding lines. So one's 100% reduction, the 2,200, looking at actuals, we decided to stay safe with 2,000, and we put 2,000 in. So the line below is the new line. We currently not require a teacher of the deaf at the high schools, so we just put a $1 marker in there in case something changes. There's special education tuition, other public high school there. That's a decrease, just, you know, based on student need at this point, and changing of numbers. So at that point, you're looking at the decrease there, and it's kind of breaking it out of your paraprofessional supports that are required at the high schools. The bottom number, your special education tuition at Dover High School, that student has, you're looking at that, and that breaks out on the next page, kind of what you're providing there. Dover High School, for their special ed portion, they do it in tiers. So their tier basis is based on the student need. More significant needed students of need have a higher tier. So that's currently this year, and we're projecting about the same for next year because of some 12th graders leaving, new students going in. That's a projection. It could be a little higher, a little lower, and that's what we're holding there. Your next one below is your special education differential for the skills program over at Co-Brown. That's the rate for the number of students we have in there now. It's showing the cost at $7,526 per student. Again, we're estimating this based on students going up. This number could go down if you have more students going to Dover. And if you're looking at the cost, as of right now, unless Dover completely changes their rates, you will still be covered if they go to Dover for their costs, because the Co-Brown cost is higher than the tiers here, so that would still be a coverage. But we did put it there as a holder. And we did do a separation. We did the same thing we did with the other. We put some at Dover and then some at Co-Brown. Move-ins, we kept the $1 marker. Your special education tuition for non-public high schools, you did have a student leaving the Dover Alt program, and you have a student who's no longer requiring some of the services at Learning Skills Academy. There were some numbers that were shared prior to, so I wanted to clarify that. But you do have the potential of a new need going at a high school level. So that's put in there. It's a strong potential, so it's in there because we're pretty sure it's gonna be needed.
An out-of-school, high school
Yes.
placement.
Yes, at the high school level. So that's what's there. If you look down here, remember when I talked about the 504 programming, the Adori for the 504 coding? Well, that's where you're seeing it here. It's actually right here. You had the 504 software in a different line. That's why you're seeing such a decrease, because we moved it to the appropriate line. So it's not that the cost is gone. It's just moved to where it should be. And now you have just your special ed software.
Is that what line are you in?
That is the special education software high school.
56.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. So that just accounts for that.
About how much of a percentage change is that affecting that 9.91%? Right, if I'm reading that right, because it went back up to the special education tuition cost, right?
Up there at the 9 point, that is just based on increased 8th graders. You
No,
have,
but it said there was a note that it went to the line 5650061.
No, it.
that moved to, oh, go ahead.
It went earlier. We talked about it to the, some guidance, the guidance
Yeah,
software.
that's correct. It's a shift so that they're breaking it out. So Some of it went to
okay.
guidance, and some of it, now you have an elementary line and a high school line, so it separates it.
okay.
That's all it is. It's just breaking it up. You are at about, it's $11 per kid for so for Acuity, which is the 504 software, it's a flat rate for the software. For the special ed software, it's $11 a student is what you wind up breaking out. And we do an average of what the students are, and that breaks it out to where the costs are different.
Where it says the code, it's 5650, not, these are all.
Oh,
Different.
okay, sorry.
Okay. And then if you move down, you can see our SLC memberships. Again, that's based off enrollment and what we pay for our student, to be a part of SLC, and what that does, Stratford Learning Center. And that just makes it so that when we do need to contract for them for different services, it's at a much decreased rate because we're already participating in with them. And you'll see that your speech therapy at the bottom has gone down, and that's based off student need. It gets proportionate out per building, based on incoming 8th graders and exiting seniors. So that's your overall high school special ed right there. Again, some of that decrease is based on student need not being back in the buildings, being back in your local schools or your contracted school. Then you have your high school transportation. Again, these are your different bus runs.
By contract.
By contract, and then you have a decrease in the special education high school transportation based on no longer need it. I think that's the big bulk of it. And then you can see that based on the projections, we're looking at a 3.77% raise in the budget. And with that in mind, a good portion of that is based off of uncontrolled costs. And then behind that, you can see the rates for Co-Brown.
The elementary costs are only going up 1.87%, whereas high school costs are going up 7.5%.
Which we expected based on the enrollment increases. You also have in your packet a write-up on the default budget legal changes. So our default is currently under construction. We'll be working with it more closely as we kind of look at some of the costs here, and obviously looking at last year's budget. And under the new law, we need to bring it to you, and you'll be discussing it in a public meeting, and then also having it be part of the public hearing.
Right.
So this is the legal update in case you can't sleep at night and you want to really find out how that's designed.
It's pretty
It's right there for you. The next tab is the tax impact, and until we have a relative static budget, it's very hard to provide a tax impact at this point.
It would be an estimate.
It would be an estimate, and at this point, we're gonna wait till it gets a little more firmed up to be able to give you that tax impact. Otherwise, it's a moving target. It gets a little blurred. Your revenue and financial report, we kind of talked about that at the beginning, what's going on there. So you have a letter there to refer back to with your anticipated revenues and your current financial report. The question was asked about the errors, and again, most of them were fixed. We did not reprint all of it. One of the major errors was in the bus coding, and that has been addressed. And hopefully by the next time we meet, everything is completely up to date, and any errors that have been in there would be fixed. You have any
Yes,
questions?
this anticipated balance is significantly different than what's on the other report.
That's,
Last year's versus this year's?
is that the 500 versus the 2?
The 282, yeah.
You
Yeah.
got one that says 587, and they're
Right.
both dated 11/7.
So
That's because, that is simply because of a progression of moving through the closing process. So I think the higher anticipated balance was they had not yet made all of their closing entries. So the
Oh, right, they have some
282
encumbrances in there.
is a closer number that takes into account any payments made out of the unassigned fund balance that we discussed at the budget. And that was the piece paper that I was looking at when we first talked. So it is very confusing to have two of them at the same date. But the reason is clear, it's because as they progressed through closing, they had done journal entries for their encumbrances and tightened up some lines. So the 280,000 is more accurate.
The following tab is the warrant articles, that they're just examples, as decide if any are required or needed or wanted at that point.
We will have a warrant
I was gonna say,
article
such
for,
as the
paraprofessional negotiation, which is being undertaken right now, so there will be a warrant article for that. And we're definitely reviewing our capital reserve for our building and determining if we're gonna make any expenditures out of that. That's something that came up in our last meeting, so we may need to do a replenishment there. And we'd held special education at 100 and didn't do anything last year, so we may be looking at something there.
Your next page is your staff list, total salaries breakout, so total compensation there. That kind of will help you with some of that, whether the track changes or their salaries or what they're doing at that point. Again, you have in there your health and dental under the next tab, and it's the real rate will not be in until March, unfortunately. So we're holding it, but they're saying that's the guarantee. So it could we could get lucky and it could come in real low, and that would change a lot of this. So they're just saying what our maximum is, so unfortunately. Again, your special ed out of district placement information is right there. It's kind of broken up just a little cleaner than in the budget, so it makes it a little easier to see. And then your special education transportation, again, just a breakdown, very clear. It tells you what lines are associated with, but it's the overall large portion. Your current CBA, as we said, a lot of these on the next tab are these costs that were required by contract. For your current teacher CBA, which was stated will expire in 2020, and we'll be looking at that again next year to make a change. The para CBA is currently about to end. It has not been ratified yet, but they feel as though they have a agreement coming. A tentative agreement coming, and that's why it hasn't been ratified. Once we have that, we'll put that in for you to show you, and that would be covered under the warrant article.
Both parties have to vote on that and finalize it. It's still under negotiation.
We kind of took a quick look at your enrollment and some of the trends and what's going on. Again, this was as of November 1st. You might see a change moving forward, the next meetings we have. The SAU report card on the next tab, I'm sorry, the next tab is actually the SAU budget, which is not adopted. As we had said, we shared a couple times. We'll be looking at that December 10th to really look at adopting that and getting that vote in there. The following tab is the report card. We are awaiting one piece of information from the state, and then we'll be able to put that in there. So we're just awaiting one piece, and that will go in there. And, the last tab is the Capital Improvement Committee, and that's in there, you're set. I know I went through the tabs quickly. Some of them were highlighted in previous things, but I'd be more than happy to go over any of them more slowly if you needed to, or if there are any major questions regarding them.
We just have a few little final items for you. The fall budget we discussed, so that will be coming. I know, Michael, this should be interesting. I think you like the fall and all the differences that are in there, so it'll be an interesting change, I think. Again, our paraprofessional contract is under negotiation. Our technology plan is in its final draft, and it'll be coming before the school board for approval, and so that will be coming to you as well. We have some high school meetings that we were attending as a board. We had our meeting last night with Co-Brown. They gave us a very interesting presentation that I think you can access. They talked about all the different things they're doing within the school for their students. And we'll be meeting with Dover on December 3rd to tour the new school and look at their statistical data. We also receive statistical data on our students incoming to Co-Brown. So that was good. And if we could just recap, I wanted to recap the action items and then grab any others that you feel there may be. I have make a note to the line if it's something that's been changed with the chart of accounts so that we can cross-reference more quickly. I've got, look at the propane history difference from 17 to 18, and then the narrative change on the lawn care to grounds. I did take a quick look in our packet from last year, and on that propane line, it said the school board accepted a bid from Rhymes for the 18-19 school year for 39,000 gallons at $1.50 per gallon, so that was 58.5 that we had contracted for. It looks like we used 48. So we'll research that further, but I think there's a little more detail there when we look back.
Okay.
Is there anything else that you'd like us to look at, or any information that would be helpful for our next presentation?
We do need to talk about schedules.
Yes.
Schedules, yes.
Because we know that you would like to get the information earlier.
The sooner the better, just so we have a chance to review it. It's hard to make heads or tails of so much data when we get it the night, tonight, we just got it, and we don't know what we're looking at, so.
That makes
last year we were trying to do we were scheduling, so we'd get you we'd have a meeting a week ahead and then look at everything and then try to get it to you.
So we have the superintendent's schedule. We also have the superintendent.
Yes. Welcome, Scott. How are you?
How are you?
Good.
So we're not sure. Are you open to changing? Are we open to changing the budget meeting times? Because we've looked at the school board calendar, and I don't know how much we can change it just because Scott or someone from the SAU would need to be here.
And January 3rd is the tax impact day,
Dawn
right?
knows this calendar far better than I do, so.
So at this point, the budget committee schedule is set up based on your current first and third meeting schedule.
Okay, so I think what we talked about, if we give you something, we might be able to give it to you 2 weeks ahead of time. If when's the next meeting?
So
The 29th.
With you guys, a TBD.
Well,
January 3rd.
The next actual meeting is the 29th of this month.
That's supposed to be
and
the
it's
school.
discuss this.
Oh, yeah, sorry, I missed that one.
And then the second draft is a date that's to be determined.
Right.
Because a decision needs to be made about the before Christmas or after Christmas.
Right. So our next school board meeting is not until the 5th.
So the meeting on the 29th is just to discuss what we did tonight,
Just discussed.
Correct.
and it's not gonna change.
So that's fine. But your second draft.
And we need to figure out where to bring the default in as well, so it looks like we need that to be decided meeting for the second.
Would you have the default by the 29th or not? That's only 2 weeks.
By the 29th, I don't think we would, because we were wanting to look
We
at
don't
a
have
more
any more
fully
meetings
developed
this
budget
month.
for this year.
Did your December 19 meeting change? I know you guys had some changes to your schedule, but I don't remember them off the top of my head.
I don't think we changed the 19th meeting.
So if you keep your meeting on the 19th, then that means,
I think you moved it to the,
meetings we haven't taken.
did you move it, you moved it to the 17th? According to somebody I know.
Inside information.
You know what? You are absolutely right.
So what date,
Okay.
Sam?
The
Apparently I
17th,
have
Monday
another-
the 17th. And that was so that we could get the budget
Yes.
for the
You're ab-
20th.
Yep, you're right.
So I mean, you guys could keep it to the 19th, and then the budget committee could meet on the 27th.
So I think, did we not talk about, is everybody available and willing to meet on the 27th?
That was the whole issue.
Yeah. So I think we moved it to the 17th so that we could get it to you as soon as the administration could make any changes that we made on that night. And so they're also doing Stratford's budget. And so I don't know how long it would take, once we make the changes on the 17th to get it. Any idea, Scott? The 17th is a Monday.
What the depth of the changes are.
Right.
Yeah.
We made changes, I don't know, I think 2 nights ago, right? And you had those changes,
And then you also made changes this morning.
Yeah, we made additional changes to that.
so, and that's being done a staff member too, so we're able to turn around pretty quickly. And some of this, if I can apologize to the committee, is the fact that the Nottingham meetings happen on Wednesdays, and then the alternate meetings, the Stratford meetings happen on Wednesdays. And like tonight, I have my Northwood School Board meeting, so I could be here to present. So some of it is complications of my schedule. So I apologize for that. There's not much I can do. But generally, once we get changes from the board, we're able to turn those around pretty quickly, let's say in a day or two. And then I can email those changes to Dawn, and then she can distribute them to the committee.
So as soon as you held a meeting on December 20th, as soon as you probably would get the changes, it would be the 18th, if I'm hearing that correctly, giving you only
A day.
a day
24 hours.
to review them. It doesn't prevent you from holding another meeting on the 27th to discuss those changes if you felt you needed it. So you could do the 20th and the 27th. But again, this is up to you. You don't have to have a second draft. You can have a second draft. And unfortunately, the timeline for the school board this year, it's just tough where their legislative dates fall, because you could meet on the 27th if that's what you so choose. But then the next Thursday, you're meeting with their final draft and their tax impact
On the 3rd.
on the 3rd.
Right.
So it's like 3 weeks, potentially 3 weeks in a row, you're seeing second draft discussion, whether you want or not, and then the next week, following it right up with the final. And then the week after that is the public hearing.
I don't think we need 2 meetings for the second draft based on, it doesn't seem like there's a lot that's gonna change significantly.
And I think the 20th would work better than the 27th
Oh, definitely, yeah.
for everybody.
Yeah, especially if the school board is making their meeting on the 17th, that would be really helpful.
So we're meeting on the 5th and the 17th, and we have to fit the default in. So would the default come January 3rd, or would it come the 20th?
The 20th is another conflict, so the 19th is available, but the 20th is a conflict.
With
Northwood board meeting.
It's the same conflict we have tonight.
I mean, I'm more than willing to come back and present it again unless you need Mr. Rooney. Yeah.
They can, I think that, yeah.
We can do that.
That's
Yeah.
fine.
I can be here on
He did a good job. He did a good job.
the 20th. Yeah, look,
We'll be okay.
So are we going for the 20th?
I think the 20th is, yeah, that's what we need to
I
go
think the
for.
27th would just be very difficult
It-
over the
yeah.
break
Yeah.
to
I
get
don't-
everybody
yeah.
in.
And that's vacation
And I know for a fact you're gonna
Yeah,
get Mr.
exactly.
Rooney on that
I
day.
think you hear banging now.
Right.
All right.
And then the only last thing that we will really need from the school board is to deliver the date.
We did that.
I thought we
We did, I didn't hear it.
It's the same,
We did it on a Tuesday.
it's the same Tuesday, yeah, it's the same week that was last week, the same day, so it's Tuesday with the snow day.
That Saturday.
It's the 5th, February 5th.
And then Saturday,
Which was the
No.
Yeah.
8th, I think.
And what time would that be? At 7 or?
I think we said 6.
6.
30.
6:30? Okay.
well,
I know.
update your calendars and then email them out to everybody so you have those, the 20th, the deliberative, and the snow date for the deliberative.
Perfect.
We have a Girl Scout meeting.
We probably don't have a Girl
And
Scout
just pray that I remember, so.
meeting. Missing
Yeah.
2 of her.
I know.
It's on camera.
Yeah, we can go back to our notes together. I have notes. They're not here all day.
The good news is that next year the calendar.
Right at it, ended early, so.
Yeah, right.
The year after, we're gonna have to plan.
Yeah.
So we're good for any,
I think we're good for right now, yeah. Thank you very much. Appreciate you
Pleasure.
coming in. And,
Always good to see you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Scott, thanks for popping in.
Nice to see you, I'm sorry.
And just so everyone knows, I looked up, the metallophone is just a metal xylophone. Just in case everybody was still suspended in the.
Oh! I would have never guessed that. I would have thought it was a wind
Same
instrument.
here.
So not the saxophone.
Yeah.
Oh, because we said nallophone, I thought it was
Metal.
malaphone, which
Yeah.
Yellow, all right. Yeah,
Metallophone, or yes.
interesting.
Thank you. Have a
Thank
good
you.
Thanksgiving.
Yep.
The weather map says it's snowing outside.
Is it
This is good
Attention
because I
channel
have
9 on those
children.
emails.
Yes, right?
What,
News
what,
already dropping around.
Are they really?
what time are we gonna hear from you
Really?
tomorrow morning? 5 o'clock?
It'll be the first time for you guys, so I used to get it at 5, we'll see you then.
Yeah. You'll be sending it out, right? All right. Third item on our agenda, general town updates. What do you got for us?
Our plow's working.
Everything is
Ready to go.
prepared for the storm.
Good.
That new truck that's sitting out there is going to be a welcome addition. So far, everything's going well. And we're just getting ready for the storm.
Yeah. And you're staffed for that? For-
Yep. Yep, yep. For all the town vehicles, we have a town employee for each one.
Awesome. Because I know that was a challenge last year.
It was, especially when we lost one when we got hurt.
Yeah.
But now he's back and well,
Good.
so we'll just keep him from climbing. We'll be all set.
Yeah, right. All right.
Are they planning on still using like Raymond and whoever else to supplement like the plowing?
They do have two contractors. One of them is a gentleman that lives off of Lakeview, I think out that way, right, Don? One of the gentlemen lives out on Lakeview there. Is it Lakeview? The other contractor for snow plowing?
Oh, I don't actually know.
And the other one is, the contractor is my company.
Oh, okay.
That's the contractor. I recused myself from the vote. It's in the minutes and all that, so everything was on the up and up.
Yeah. All right. Subcommittee reports. What you got?
Haven't been notified by anyone on the CIP,
Yeah,
so
nothing's changed there.
thing.
Who's in charge of that committee? Chris Sterndale? Okay. I gave him a little nudge.
What about this, space advisory committee that Sue said they would be interested in having one of us?
Oh, for the school, that's what she was, yes, I know
Oh,
she
yes,
mentioned the
yes.
committee, and I didn't catch what it was for, so, space advisory, you
I
wanna
think that's what it
participate?
was. I jotted it down. I don't know. I mean, it depends on when they meet. If they're doing this in the middle of the day, then I can't do it.
Oh, right, if it's a middle of the day thing, that doesn't work.
Sue just said they met just last
Yeah.
night.
No,
Is
this
that
morning.
right?
Or this morning.
They said they meant
I,
this morning.
I think it was this morning. I think it is during the day.
It is.
I could be wrong, but it's not one of the 6 committees.
Yeah.
I know someone of a community member that volunteered is actually a teacher at another school district, so I'm curious. I guess she was absent probably for,
Trying to get some intel.
yeah.
Yeah, if it's a day thing, morning thing or whatever, I wouldn't be able to do that, so.
I could potentially, it just depends on
Depends on the day and
the day,
that kind of
yeah.
thing.
If I know it far enough in advance.
What's the best way to find out?
I mean, I can find out.
What?
I'd be there for 6:30.
You know what?
We can find out when it is. I mean, I think some of us would be willing to do it
Yeah.
if it wasn't always during the day.
Alright.
I'll find out and,
Yeah, let us know.
I think the next meeting.
Because the transportation committee won't meet again until spring, probably at the earliest.
We can, oh yeah, we can talk about it.
Okay.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Like, really, we just signed a new contract, so there's not much to meet about.
We'll have them back to ask them.
It was
Yeah.
three.
Yeah.
I was
We
on
don't
the
have
committee.
anybody, is there a transportation committee
Yeah, it's like, I don't know.
That's what I was saying. I don't think they'll meet
They
again.
just kinda
We
scroll
just
through
signed
stuff,
it.
and
some of the
I think
stuff
it's
I don't know what it
three-year
is.
contract.
3-year contract, right, yeah.
So they won't meet again other than to talk maybe in the spring about bus rates,
$6,400 a year on
Okay.
books for the
as far as I know.
Any new books?
Approval of minutes, the fun part.
Absurd number to be.
Yeah.
So we have, what do we have? We have the February 1st, 2018 minutes. I don't know if anybody's had the chance to go on to Google Docs and do their updates and edits and all that fun stuff. I think you, who,
Karen,
in English?
I think you.
I know I did.
gone through, you went through.
Carrie.
Mike, I think you reviewed them.
I tried.
But we can give this another go for a couple, like, we'll try a few more sets of minutes, and if it just doesn't seem to work, as much as I want it to work, it may not.
I just need to figure out, I think, we just need to figure out is the edits that are put in there and who's made them and then how, you've got it checked off.
These weren't
so.
on there, were they? Because I checked. Oh, they were? Oh, okay, all right.
The October 8th ones, or
Oh,
18th?
18th, yeah.
Yeah, they haven't been put up there yet.
If I remember correctly, Jen was the only one that actually made any changes on those February.
Aaron
I made some
today,
changes.
Oh, Aaron.
Or at some point in the last couple of days, so there are 3 copies of the edited minutes. I apologize about the 18th, I could have sworn that I did them, like I was all set, and I did them
I
upload.
haven't seen them.
It must have been figured in my imagination, because I was shocked to get an email from Aaron this morning asking me where the minutes from the 18th were. And I was like, oh, they're up there already, we already talked about them.
Could you remind us when you send reminders about meetings to review the minutes, because I totally forgot about it.
Yeah.
Really, I just, I mean, you can postpone these if we want to try to give this another.
Yeah, let's do that, because I think it's just be a better use of our time. I mean, and so on, if you guys don't mind. I mean, sitting here and reading these and so on, I'd rather do it on my own time and make the edits and then be able to approve them, so. I
And
think
you
it makes more
mentioned,
sense for everybody.
How does that work when if I made edits or at least checked off that I've reviewed them, and then 5 days later, somebody else edits them, but I don't get notified that there's been an update? How does that work? How do I,
Oh, so you want to?
how do I know which version is real anymore?
I think it's up to you as the individual to check the minutes for further updates. if I upload them tonight and 4 of you go in tomorrow, do whatever changes you make, and then a week goes, or 2 days go by, and then 2 other people go in, I don't believe anybody is notified that additional changes are made.
I think you can be though.
Yeah, you can
Can
call
you-
it.
think you can do
Yeah, you can get notified of changes.
Yeah.
Tim, tell me what I need to check off.
So now that you've just volunteered.
No, I didn't volunteer. I was just making
I
a
heard
statement. I didn't say I knew how to do it.
Well, thinking out loud,
But
I can
Dawn
Google
did print
it.
us some good
Yes.
instructions on how to edit the documents, so we just need to play with it and if in doubt, ask a 12-year-old, because they'll teach you how.
yeah. To piggyback on what Michael was saying, did you add, we were gonna put in like that we put our initials on? And then maybe if we date stamp it as well, and then when you send the email, don't forget to look, then we could just look to see if anybody went in after whenever you looked at it, and we'll have the dates there.
And then I go in and I say, oh, this is cool, let me make another little change here.
Oh, I know.
Okay. And I mean, I will still print a
Don't.
couple copies of the fully edited minutes, so that if anyone's uncomfortable, you'll at least be able to see the document with all of its edits. And using that suggested, because you have a couple of options to select from when you go in to edit it. You have editing and suggestions, and I think it's the suggestions option that document Mike Easter changed this paragraph, John Moran changed this paragraph, you know, and it shows you each of the edits of the person who's reviewing the report.
Can I put a little wrench in this?
Oh,
So, we have a committee, the Health and Wellness Committee for the school board, and we were advised that working together on documents online is like having a meeting.
even if they're just correcting minutes?
We're still trying to work it out and
It's
figure
not a
it out.
discussion. I would take issue with that.
I'm just telling you what we were told.
I think you would still need to have a final version that we vote on. at
Yeah,
the
and we're not
meeting.
approving anything.
Nothing is approved online, it's just the ability to eliminate
Edits.
sitting here in the meeting. And what we do for the Board of Selectmen is different than what we're trying to do here, only because there's 5 of them. So I actually send them the Word document with track edits on. Each of them makes their changes, sends it back to me. I add all of those edits to one single document, and then they receive it again the Friday before the meeting. So it's slightly different, but I can ask the legal opinion of our attorney to see if
I guess to Michael's
Might
point
as
though,
well.
you don't have to worry necessarily about going back in to see what other people changed, because we're still gonna have a final version that we'll vote on at a meeting.
But you have
And
to
you
have
still
some
have to
cutoff,
read it.
or else we're sitting here reading the minutes, the final copy,
Yeah.
during
You're
the
still
meeting.
reading.
But all we would
Yeah.
be looking at, if you've already reviewed them, is to see what changes were made, right? So you can print us a version that shows the changes that were made.
and that's what.
That's what this one is, right? This one
Right
shows
now, right.
all the edits have been, things have been crossed out and whatever's been edited has been added in color, so you can see it.
And this might not work. I mean, we're,
Yeah.
the.
And if there's definitely, let's inquire about, the legality of it. I
Right.
mean,
Well, you can ask.
I guess you shouldn't be commenting on each other's comments, because then it's a
Right, then
discussion.
it becomes a
Yeah.
discussion, right?
I think that was stupid.
All right, so we'll test it out one more time and see what happens, and then you'll check with legal.
Yeah.
And we'll go from there, so. All right, roundtable. Do we have any topics, things that anybody wants to address and bring up?
I'll just say that I attended the discussion of the climate survey that the school board
Oh, yeah,
did.
yeah.
That was unfortunately not well attended, and I would encourage everyone to, I think the school board's gonna have other means of providing information and summaries and results to the community, and I would definitely encourage everyone to pay attention to that. I thought it was really informative. I didn't realize, so the majority, I think, of students between grades 3 and 8 all took it. A number of parents took it, teachers took it, staff took it, different versions, obviously, for each group. So it's a lot of information and data and some interesting results. So I would encourage people to access that information.
Yeah, that's great. I know I was one of the ones that, you know, I had to ask the stupid question because I honestly had no idea that this survey had even been done in the first place. And so I asked the stupid question like 2 days before it happened, and I emailed Chris and I said, well, what is this? Like, what are you talking about? And I think that there was a slight miscommunication in letting people know what this survey was actually, because I think a lot of people forgot that it took place. So now it was kind of a catch-up thing, and just mentioning the name of the survey wasn't enough information to pique everybody's interest in making them come.
Yeah, and I mean, I had taken the survey and I didn't even have a full understanding of all the things that were being captured by it, so I thought it was really interesting.
Good results?
Yeah, I mean, I think actually the overall feedback from both students and teachers and parents are very, very positive. So there weren't, it actually doesn't leave a lot of areas to improve upon, but there were some that were.
I was gonna say we had some areas of improvement, communication.
A lot of it was around communication, so not so much the actual, I think, experience of the students in the school, but getting communication between the school and parents, or vice versa, the parents being more involved.
It seems to be the problem everywhere. I know it's a major problem in the company I work with, and you know, you'd think nowadays with tweets and texts and
There's too much. There's too many ways to get it. That's the problem.
Yeah, that's the problem. It just gets lost. And the number of people that ignore emails nowadays because it's just, you know, even my son, I sit there and said, I sent you an email. He's like, that's old school. I don't do email. I'm like, what do you mean it's old school?
I have to say, I looked on one of my older kids' Google email for school, and the amount of emails they get through the Google Classroom, like some of the Google Classroom settings are emailing them every single time the teacher like posts something or tweets something or whatever. And I mean, I don't blame them for not reading them. I'm not even sure when they have time to read all those emails. And he had a slew of unread ones, but he was like, well, that's just because the science teacher posts like 5 things a day, and so I just don't read them. Because there's so much. I mean, they're not actually email communications. It's
They're
just
going to it.
notification.
They can still access it.
Yeah, it's just a notification to say something's been posted. So actually, I think that might be a piece to look at. Is are we like over inundating them with emails?
They're numb to the fact that they're getting
kids
email.
are processing them differently. My 7th grader, I just looked over her shoulder, and she has nothing in her inbox, and I'm like gasping, like, what did you do with your emails? Where are they? She's like, it's also on the inter part of the Google programs with the kids. And she's like, I don't need it here because it doesn't pertain to me, or I already did it. So they're just.
Because apparently she actually deletes them. Whereas
She
my
actually
son,
deletes them.
my son just ignores them.
Sorting and classifying.
So.
We also found that we need to do a better job with engaging students. So I think with something like between 20 and 25% of our students felt that they weren't engaged in the school, and they didn't find the school to be a welcoming place for them. And so that's, again, we're talking about the social emotional learning. We're talking about supporting them in a number of different ways. We're talking about trying to figure out who those students are. And how do we help them? So that is a big push for us this year.
There was something just in the news the other day about kids not feeling important in the community or something. Did you hear about that?
I did not, but I know that.
Some research done, and there was some question, and they found the number actually to be higher than they expected of kids that actually felt like they were a part of the community, but the number that felt like they were not part of the community was still extremely high.
So we were at Co-Brown last night. Today's Thursday. So yes, last night. And one thing that Co-Brown does, and I'm pretty sure that Dover does it also, but we haven't yet met with them. Co-Brown puts up the picture of every student that they have, and they have all of the teachers sit around and they talk about They put a dot on each student's photo to talk about interaction outside classrooms with those students, to make sure that every student has meaningful interaction with adults. And I think that's something that we thought we did a great job at Nottingham School, but I mean, maybe we could, do something like that, make sure that every student has some adult that they're having meaningful and positive interactions with. Because what we don't want is to have students move through the school and to feel like it's not their home, and that they don't have a place.
Interesting. Anybody else? Nope. All good? All good? I think, and I don't know the date, when is the craft fair?
Saturday.
This Saturday? So that's coming up. And then, yeah, the only other thing is, happy Thanksgiving, everybody.
And actually, the school is doing the first Midnight Madness for basketball.
That's right.
On Saturday night, too.
Saturday night, Midnight Madness.
Which is not actually at midnight, right?
No.
Midnight mass at 7 o'clock.
No.
Yeah. I think it starts at 4:30.
The time zone.
Right.
I was like, whoa, midnight.
All right.
No, it's 4:30.
Do I have a
Motion to adjourn.
motion to adjourn?
I will move.
Second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you all very much.
Thank you so much.